My name is Mike Strumph. I'm the Senior Director of Coffee at Swiss Water Decaf. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the previous speakers. You did wonderful jobs. I thought they were all really, really fascinating presentations that will all lead up into kind of what I'm talking about. There's been a couple solid themes throughout the day, and hopefully I can tie back into every single presentation that we heard earlier. And thank you to DR Wakefield for having me here. Wakefield's and Swiss Water have been partners for such a long time, one of the very earliest customers of Swiss Water Decaf. Our brand ethos really match up really well, and I know that the roasters who buy from Wakefield's have that same ethos, so just thank you very much for all the trust that it takes to buy from everyone in the supply stream. It means a lot. It brings us here today, and thank you very much. I'm gonna try this and make this exciting as possible. It is the end of the day, and it's decaf, but hopefully, hopefully it's still exciting. Because what we need to do is kind of rethink the way that we approach decaffeinated coffee. And so what we're gonna talk about first is why the heck is there decaf, and why are we talking about it today? We'll talk about market insights, and hopefully some good takeaways that can shape your businesses back home. I'll tell you about the Swiss Water process, or process as some people call it in Canada. A little bit about how it works, those types of things. Talk about our brand, and you'll see some flashy colors here. We just did a rebrand that we launched in April, and so those materials are slowly seeping out into the world. And then this fourth point is actually the main point of what I want to talk about today, is focusing on the importance of coffee producers in the decaffeinated coffee supply stream. So first off, why? Why does decaf matter? So decaf is a really important portion of the global coffee market, and it's a fast-moving portion of the coffee market. I have a couple slides over the next pages, but decaf consistently is moving and growing faster than caffeinated coffee, which is fantastic. So the stat down here at the bottom is about 700 million pounds of coffee are decaffeinated per year, but only 9 out of 10 cups that are drunk are chemical-free processed. And this really speaks to how small Swiss Water is. I work there every day. All I think about is decaf every single day. And it's good to remind myself that, like, as a roaster, you only think about decaf part of the day. And then even smaller is chemical-free decaf. But it really does matter. And why it matters is because it's chemical-free. So more young people are drinking coffee. And I was having a laugh about our presentation because we used to talk about, millennials are drinking coffee. And I had to point out, it's like, millennials are old now. So then we added in Gen Z, and now it's all good. But younger people are drinking coffee because coffee drinking isn't just about the caffeine. This ties back into these trends that we were talking about, where making coffee something that's a treat for yourself, a ritual for yourself, and it doesn't have to make you anxious necessarily. Market research shows that people really do want better tasting decaf. This old mindset of just like, give me a cup of decaf doesn't fit in with the way that people drink coffee anymore, which is great because it means that we get to handle and taste more interesting coffees. And really, really importantly is this social and sustainable aspect, is that people who are invested in what they're putting into their body and what they're consuming are very often paying attention to what else goes along with that product. I'm sorry that I start out with the US first. I swear we're moving away from this very quickly. So specialty decaf, as I was saying, has been growing quite quickly. It grows faster than caffeinated coffee. I need to look at this to get my colors right. So this on your left-hand side is the consumption of cups of decaf. And so this is only data going up to 2022. You see this huge spike when everybody started working from home and things in 2020. Decaf really started peaking, and it hasn't gone back down, which is amazing. And then when we look at consumption growth, this is where we see how fast specialty decaf is growing. So this top teal line is the specialty decaf, which is growing significantly faster and at a higher angle than any other segment of coffee. And the other segments we have here are regular coffee total, regular coffee specialty, decaf total, and then decaf specialty. The next slide looks the same. This is the European market following the exact same trend. So this is not just a US trend that's happening. You know, we in decaf coffee wish we were moving as fast as the low or no alcohol beer segment, which has just been an absolute boom. But it's following a similar pattern, just a little slower. We're a much more mature market than no alcohol beer, but we're still seeing a lot of growth happening, which is, I think, fantastic for people who want to drink decaf. So this is a little bit newer. This is data going up to 2023. This is global consumption of decaf, which over this 5-year period has increased by 38%, which is an incredible growth. If any of us could have 38% growth over 5 years in our businesses, I think we'd be pretty happy. So decaffeinators in general are having a good time, which is fantastic. The trouble really is, though, is that building a decaffeination plant is not quite so easy. It's not as simple as building a roastery, which is not simple at all. But the scale of building a decaffeination plant is quite large. So the fact that the global decaf consumption is growing is good, but it also pushes the boundaries of the decaf world. So this is, the next couple slides pull a lot of data from the Euromonitor information source, and this was a quote talking about why there's a growth in decaf. And it's everything that leads to the growth in decaf, it's building on each other. There's a shift in the coffees that are being bought for decaf because there was a shift in coffees that people wanted for decaf, and now there's a shift in the quality of decaf. And now there's also the shift in people care about what they're putting inside their body. So this is all just building on top of each other so that we get this big growth over a pretty short amount of time. Now, looking just at Europe, because that last chart was worldwide decaf consumption. And so interestingly, interesting to me because I don't live in Europe, Europe consumes 51% of the world's decaf. I'm not so good at math, but I don't believe that Europe has 51% of the world's people. So Europeans love their decaf, which is fantastic. And so over this 5-year period, European growth was 36%, which is faster than the worldwide growth. Super interesting is this breakdown when we look at the growth in Western Europe at 33%, Eastern Europe 52%. What this means is decaf is growing faster in Eastern Europe, but it also means it's a much less developed market. And when I look at these numbers, I try and look at what's the upside and what's the opportunity, is that if you're a roaster in Eastern Europe, there is this trend that's coming, and you can get on this. The other thing is that if you're a roaster in Western Europe and you aren't selling kind of the average percentage of decaf for your market, you have this opportunity to sell more decaf. Now, speaking of average decafs per market, of the top 20 decaf consuming countries in the world, 11 are here in Europe. I don't even know why. I wish I should know this type of stat, but I don't know why. Germany consumes so much decaf. It's the hub of decaffeination in the world. The largest companies are there. And they also seem to drink a lot of decaf. This is kind of my quandary about how many people live in Europe versus the rest of the world. Like, there's not half of the people in Europe and Germany, but they sure do drink a lot of decaf. But then we see France has a lot of decaf. Spain is another outlier. They have the highest consumption percentage of decaf of any country in the world, which is really, really interesting. And I think I have some percentages by country coming up soon. So specifically about the UK, it's 7th in total decaf consumption in the world, which is 4.2% of all decaffeinated coffee drunk. Going back to those trends, no caffeine, when you're looking at beverage trends, no caffeine is the leading health and wellness claim. And so this is a really good thing to glom onto if you want to glom onto some trends. There's a lot of talk about mitigating caffeine side effects. And this is interesting because what we're seeing currently is this in-between between caffeinated and decaffeinated, offering your customers something that's not fully one or the other, so that they can either drink the same coffee all day long, or they can just regulate what they're putting into their body as their day goes on. Of course, people want stress relief. Who doesn't? I certainly do. Yeah, and again, on this last point, there's lightly caffeinated, or there's companies trying to push the boundary on labeling, talking about how much caffeine they're actually putting into each serving, which is easiest to do when you're on ready-to-drink types of things. But you could also do it if you're giving really directive brew recipes, or in your cafes, you could give some kind of level of how much caffeine someone's getting in a beverage. Okay, so some other countries here. Italy, another big consumer. And what was interesting about this market research coming out of Italy was the focus on single origin coffee. And this is going to be a theme of what I talk about for the rest of the slides, is that decaf shouldn't just be decaf. If you are a roaster who's offering 10 single origin coffees and you're selling your decaf with this other method of like, oh, it's my decaf blend, you aren't representing yourself the same way with that offering as you are with the rest of your coffees. And it's especially interesting to me coming out of Italy, because in my head, of course, they invented coffee. It's crazy how they grew coffee in Italy back then, but I'll never get it. But with the cap on how much you can sell an espresso for, but they still have this push for higher quality coffee, single origin coffee. Poland is on the rise as a decaf consumer, really looking to eliminate caffeine or reduce caffeine. And these are where people are really young drinking decaffeinated coffee. And Poland has quite a fast-moving coffee market. And so it's wonderful to see that there's many products that you can offer to satisfy these customers. All right, this is a little bit small on the text, I'm sorry. So the main 4 consumer insights that we have from going through many market research sources right now is that decaf can be a solution to a problem that people are facing. We talk a lot about well-being and anxiety, and caffeine certainly affects me. I assume it affects most people, and reducing your caffeine level can help you manage your anxiety and stress while still keeping up your productivity. Because our plant runs 24 hours a day. Usually the first the question that people ask is, oh, do you drink decaf in the building? No, we're an office. We run through the night. People want caffeinated coffee. But we also have a lot of meetings, and some of them can be stressful, so we still need some decaf. Younger people entering the category, again, this is not just millennials drinking decaf. Younger people, and like all those beverages that we saw, the Swalty, the Swoomami, all of these beverages with the multi-layers, the textures, those are great with decaffeinated coffee. The coffee flavor is the same, and you can still deliver wonderful drinks to your customers. People are drinking decaffeinated coffee more often. The reasons why: improving sleep quality, reducing anxiety, and discovering that there's good decaffeinated coffee. It's not like you have to go out with your friends and order a soda. You could order a nice decaf. And sustainable purchasing. This is still holding true. Even in a tight economy, the people who care about sustainability still care about sustainability, which is wonderful. So market research has shown that 63% of people would switch to a decaffeinated method that didn't use chemical solvents, and 69% are willing to pay more for a high-quality decaf. And so the decaf opportunity, as we see it, the opportunity for roasters, for everybody in the coffee stream, is that decaf can increase your business. If you're not serving decaf, you're going to be missing out on serving and satisfying some of your customers. So in marketing speak, we talk about the afternoon day part. It just means the afternoon. 66% of customers like to limit their caffeine intake once the day goes on. You hear everybody talking about it. I can't have coffee after 2 p.m. or else I can't sleep well. Decaf's still coffee. So we can change a little bit of this mentality. Generational change, it's like that trend of products for all ages. 75% of drinkers, decaf drinkers under 34 are drinking decaf, still consuming coffee, and being able to offer a nice, high-quality decaf does differentiate you from other roasters. And so this point at the bottom is really going to segue into the rest of the presentation, which is having a high-quality decaf is different than just having decaf. And having a decaffeinated coffee that preserves the quality and the taste of origin is what we really think is the future of decaf. So, speaking a little bit about the Swiss water process for those of you who don't have an introduction to us. It's a little small if you're in the back. This is part of our new marketing and branding, so you'll start to see this coming out. It's a very succinct method of describing how our process works. We have 4 main steps and then a cup of coffee. There's no brewing on here. Don't worry about that. First step is the preparation and hydration. We first clean the coffee, kind of like what you would do at a dry mill, but we go through an extra set of cleaning. And then the hydration is a really important step. It's kind of like the pre-wetting in a pour-over. You need to prepare the coffee so that you can extract the caffeine as gently as possible. So what we're doing is hydrating with water, swelling the coffee up to about 50% moisture, like it's back on the tree. Then we have caffeine migration. And so the real trick to the Swiss water process is that we never take the flavor out of the coffee. Our decaffeination medium we call green coffee extract. It's water saturated with the soluble solids that make up coffee flavor. But there's no caffeine. Then you put fresh coffee in, and through osmosis, caffeine brews out. It's water soluble. And by controlling this diffusion gradient, we make sure that we're brewing out the caffeine and not the other soluble solids that make up the flavor of coffee. We worry about the details. You don't have to worry about all these things. That's what we take care of. Step 3, after the coffee has been decaffeinated, we need to dry it back down. We have big dryers. I was talking about this earlier. And this corridor back here, from here to the entry hallway where we come in right before the toilets, is about the size of one of our dryers. It's a continuous feed dryer. It uses a massive amount of forced air because we're trying to dry coffee from 50% moisture down to about 10% moisture and stabilize it all in a very short amount of time. We don't have any patios. Even before there were changing weather patterns, it rained a lot in Vancouver. And like everybody who needs to dry coffee, this is the biggest bottleneck that we can have. So we have a very large dryer, and we've made a lot of improvements in our drying recently because we have a new facility, which is on the next slide. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. The fourth step, in my mind, is really what makes Swiss water different from other decaffeinators, because lots of people use water. That word isn't so unique. But based on the way that we remove the caffeine from our green coffee extract, we have carbon custom made for us that's specific to the pore size and structure of caffeine. So we run this green coffee extract across columns of carbon, the caffeine is captured, and then the green coffee extract is reused over and over again. And that's what really makes us unique. We use no chemical solvents. Swiss water was formed as the first decaffeinator that was organic certified. We've maintained our organic certification to this day, which is fantastic, although we get stressed out every time we have an audit. I'm on the audit team, so I get extra stressed out. But yeah, there's never any chemical solvents used, and that's such an important tenet of our company. All right, so not just why decaf, but why Swiss water? We have this chemical-free, solvent-free process. What that allows us to do by never taking the flavor of the coffee out and trying to put it back in is we still represent what the coffee tasted like coming in. If you've tasted our offerings that DR Wakefield represents, if it's a coffee from Peru, it tastes like it's a coffee from Peru. If it's a coffee from Costa Rica, it still tastes like it's a coffee from Costa Rica. No residues, no synthetics. Like this Cascara discussion about presenting products with a clean certificate of analysis, you don't even have to worry because we're not using any solvents in there. And consistent caffeine testing. Every decaffeination run, we issue a certificate of analysis, which is a blend of caffeine tests following the ISO method, averaged together, all that kind of stuff. We like to be a trusted source in everybody's supply stream. So unique to Swiss water, as opposed to other decaffeinators, the majority of the world's decaffeinators are just toll decaffeinators. You hand them your coffee, they decaffeinate it for you, they give it back to you. We operate kind of like a roaster, kind of like a trade house. We buy coffee, we decaffeinate coffee, we sell coffee. We keep spot coffee around the world. We don't keep spot coffee in the UK because we have wonderful partners here. But because we buy coffee like a roaster, we have to have people on our staff like a roaster, which means we actually know something about coffee and not just about decaffeination. So we have people with acronyms after their names. As Jamie was mentioning, Stacy, who runs our cupping room, she is the two-time Coffee and Good Spirits champion of Canada and was just competing out in Geneva and did fantastically. Really cool. She used a decaffeinated coffee. So the first round of the competition, you have to serve a hot beverage and a cold beverage. They're cocktails, right? And so she used the same coffee before and after decaffeination. Very exciting. Trying to promote that cocktails can be low caffeine or no caffeine and can still deliver a great punch and a great value to customers. Yeah, and so the last point on here is on our website, we have this online decaf store, which we're trying to make more than just the US only so that we can offer it around the world. It's an aggregation. We're never touching the coffee, but we handle orders for roasters in the US who buy our decaf. So we're in active work to figure out how to make this more automated so that we can roll that out around the world. Of the coffees that we offer, Part of why we match up so well with DR Wakefield is this focus on certified offerings. It's not all of our coffees, but it's a big part of our identity and of the coffees that we offer. So organic coffees, fair trade organic. I don't know if anybody here cares about the third one. It exists. Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade Rainforest Alliance, SMBC. EUDR, we were ready to go last year. We shipped some coffee to you that was fully compliant, and then things went a little screwy. We're going to be ready for next year. You have nothing to worry about in terms of your DDS reporting requirements. And we also do toll processing, which is something that we do for roasters and importers around the world. And the next slide, I'm going to be talking about toll processing. So what this is we provide a decaffeination service. We don't take ownership of the coffee. It's not coffees that my team selects. It's the coffees that you selected, that you want to represent. If anybody's interested in this sort of thing, we can help out with freight all around the world, and we can maintain organic certifications, because that's what we do. Now, this is really why I wanted to be here today, so let me take a drink and then dive into it. I only have 40 more slides, so sit tight. I know penultimate is next to last. I don't know what 40th to last is. All right, so why does decaf matter to coffee producers? And which coffee producers are caring about decaf? Let's get into it. There's not 40 slides, there's 10. Okay, so in the US, 16% of coffee consumed is decaf. In Europe, 12% of coffee consumed is decaf. Of course, we saw from that slide earlier, not every country consumes the same amount of coffee in Europe, but I use this as just a general benchmark, especially for Western Europe. If you aren't selling 12% of your coffee as decaf, you have an opportunity. The real thing here, the real trick, is that if a coffee producer or a coffee exporter isn't selling coffee to be decaffeinated, they're potentially missing out on a growth opportunity. An exporter like Corpatarazu has your bank of customers. Every customer uses decaffeinated coffee. So the opportunity is to represent yourself, because you can represent Corpatarazu better than I can. I try and sell your coffee. I forgot to put a slide up in here, but we buy coffee from Corpatarazu. It tastes delicious. We sell it as decaf, but nobody can represent coffee better than the person who's responsible for it. And so this opportunity is taking more control over your brand, taking more control over your positioning, and leveraging relationships. And this is a bit of a change in mindset, because forever, as I was saying, Swiss Water has started at the other end. We're marketing to consumers, and this is facing the other direction, going downstream, but with full recognition that we can talk about our process. We're pretty good at talking about our process. We've never been that great about talking about exactly where the coffee comes from. But it's a bit of a confusing factor, because we base our process on, this is this bare process to maintain the flavor of the coffee throughout. So why do we talk only about our process? We need to talk more about the coffee. So we're trying to learn how to talk more about coffee like roasters do, like buyers do. But ultimately, nobody can talk about coffee better than the person that produced the coffee. The third opportunity here is similar to what we were hearing about from everybody along the line, is there's specialty coffee, and then there's high-end specialty coffee. And there is a market for high-end specialty decaf. And so there's this opportunity for roasters to have more than one decaf. You don't just have to have your decaf espresso blend. You can have two coffees And the high-end decaf, you don't have to have the same volume, but offering customers another option, a premiumized option, can really help out things. And while I know that proposing a different business model or communications model can throw off people's methods, partners like D.R. Wakefield and Swiss Water, we know how to handle logistics, we know how to decaffeinate coffee, move coffee all around the world. So this proposition isn't saying like, oh, you need to sell coffee X warehouse Bristol or something. It's just communicating, adding a decaf option into your offer lists so that people can have the same coffee before and after decaffeination, the coffees that they love. So again, we're trying to push this idea of telling the story of the coffee, not the story of the process. We believe, and market research shows, that customers expect the same level of coffee before and after decaffeination. They want the same story of coffee before and after decaffeination. And so why not tell it? So I have a couple examples in these next slides. Finally, some pictures. It's been a lot of text, I know. Part of the rebrand that we went through as a company was naming our coffee lines and introducing a new coffee line. So this is some snips from our website. Our top-end coffees used to be called small batch series. We're now calling them Emerald Microlots. And these are seasonal coffees popping in and out throughout the year. This year we're going to have about 8 coffees in this lineup, so it's not a lot. They're limited availability, but really high quality, aiming for 86 plus cup scores, really interesting stories, innovative producers. And so this is how we would market it. And we finally have figured out with our new website how to give everybody some assets, like some pictures and things like that, to aid you in telling the story of this coffee. One of the main reasons for this rebrand was to introduce a new line of coffees, which we're calling Verdant Reserves. These are specialty coffees, similar to the quality that everybody's used to from Swiss Water, but traceable to cooperatives and farms. And I'm kicking myself because one of these Verdant Reserves is the La Pastora coffee, and we have a sheet that looks just like this. These are 2 of our offerings. So our Guatemala from Finca Sabanetas, Colombia from Coop and Serma. And it's just treating decaf like the rest of the coffee that you buy. It shouldn't be revolutionary, but in the decaf world, it's a little bit revolutionary. But it's not that revolutionary because look what these people are doing. You're already doing it. You know what's going on. Though I can't say that this is how every decaf in the world is marketed. I had to do a little bit of fine picking to understand which coffees are really being told about where they're coming from and how well can you tell the story. And so this type of coffee that's a long-term relationship, it's very easy to tell the story. You know this producer so well. Wakefields knows it, roasters know it. Let's have it as decaf. Fantastic. Another example from Wakefields is this Congo. Same story, you know where it comes from, you can tell the story of where it comes from. And these are just great examples of where we think everybody needs to go to keep growing the decaf market. Now, I mentioned producers before. So far, I've only shown slides from Swiss Water and then an importer. But we've been working more and more projects with what I think of as direct-to-roaster exporters who are already accustomed to landing coffee around the world. And so one of these, which maybe some of you got access to last year, was in our Emerald Microlots series. It was a coffee from the Gold Mountain Growers Cooperative in Nicaragua. We ran this as a project. We split the run between us and Gold Mountain. They sold out their half before the coffee was even landed in Vancouver. And that's truly the ideal situation for me, especially in this idea of coffee producers representing themselves and reaching out to their customers. If you're used to selling coffee FOB before it leaves, that's the same thing with decaf. You can sell it, and then it gets decaffeinated and shipped around. This was a delicious coffee. We are working on new crop Nicaragua from Gold Mountain for anybody that liked it last year. Now, some examples of non-Swiss water decaffeinated coffee. Just to show what's happening in this premium decaf world, decaf is moving into super premium, vacuum-packed bags, small boxes. This is from the exporter called Forest. We've bought some coffees from Forest before. This was not one of ours. This was their list price last year before the C market rose, almost $12 a pound US. And I'm not saying this to brag or anything, it wasn't our coffee, but this segment of premium decaf exists, and people aren't buying like 60 kg bags of it, but in 30 kg bags, in like 15 to 30 kg boxes, people are buying these coffees and offering them as their second or third decaf offerings. Another direct-to-roaster exporter from Colombia, CoffeeNet, they're a good example of somebody offering multiple qualities of decaf. On your right is a more standard Popayan regional. On the left is example, small packaging size, really interesting story, interesting processing, and selling for quite different prices. And then last example, and then I swear I'll stop, is ultra premium. 1 kilo boxes of decaf. This is along the lines of farms and exporters pushing competition level coffees. This is, what's it listed as? I think it's a thermal shock washed, calling out everything that you would see on the fanciest coffees available, but it's also decaf, adding one more attribute to increase the value of that coffee. Interestingly, hitting our offering sheet imminently, maybe already, is this same coffee, but Swiss water decaf. So it's a really interesting coffee. This is what Stacy served in the Coffee and Good Spirits Championship. So it's from Acevedo Huila, from the Peñas Blancas mill. It's a washed per bone thermal shock coffee. It's delicious. Ask your rep for some samples. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll stop talking. I'll say thank you. I really do mean it. Thank you. It takes a lot of trust for everybody to be here, and it says so much about all of you and about Wakefield's that you have this type of relationship and that we're involved in it. So thank you so much.